Y'all can book it. The Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and company are on their way to the NBA Finals, beating the Clippers in 6 games. Chris Paul makes his first Finals appearance at the age of 36. Devin Booker in his first playoff run, along with many of his teammates, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, first time in the postseason, making an NBA Finals appearance. You already know I'm here to talk about it, man. It's Reek Knows Hoops. I'm your host, Tyreek. Excuse the hair. It's hair day tomorrow. Excuse the hair, but be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new. This is a place where we talk about NBA basketball. And the NBA basketball we're talking about tonight is giving praise and love to the Phoenix Suns for making the NBA Finals. I believe it's the first time since 93, I believe, for the Suns making the Finals. That was when Charles Barkley was leading this team, and they went up against Michael Jordan in the NBA Finals. And you know Jordan did not lose in the Finals, but this time the Phoenix Suns, led by Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton has been phenomenal in the postseason, and he played big time tonight. But let's get back to Chris Paul. For those of you who are new or may not be aware, I'm a big Chris Paul fan. And I know Chris Paul has been through a lot in his NBA career, reasons why he hasn't made the finals. It seems like it's always one thing after another. And a lot of the time it's been injury. It's been injury most of the time. And this postseason started off in typical Chris Paul fashion, going down with an injury. It was his shoulder, game 1 against the Lakers in the first round. And I think collectively, CP3 fans, NBA fans were just like, here we go again. Chris Paul, one of maybe his last best chances of making an NBA Finals run and trying to get that elusive championship, goes down with an injury in game 1. And for much of that series, he did not look like himself. He started to come alive a little bit at the end of that series, but luckily the Suns, Devin Booker stepped up big time, and they were able to win that series. DeAndre Ayton was huge. And then moving on to the Denver series, Chris Paul was starting to look healthy. He was looking like himself. He played phenomenal in that Denver series, had a 35-point game in the closeout game against the Nuggets. And then we're like, okay, Chris Paul was looking good. And then we get the news that he's going into health and safety protocols. He caught the virus, and we're like, it's always something. Like, I don't know what this man did. I don't know why the basketball gods don't mess with him, but it just seems like it was always one thing after another. But comes back in game 3. And in his first 3 games of the series, he did not look like himself. He did not look like Chris Paul. But tonight he looked like Chris Paul. I know that was a long-winded way to get to tonight's game, but Chris Paul, 41 points in a closeout game in his former stomping grounds against the Clippers in LA, in Staples Center. What a performance by Chris Paul. He stepped up when his team needed it the most. The Clippers were down most of this game by double digits. Cut the lead down to 7 in the second half. Chris Paul went on a personal 8-0 run to push the lead back into double figures. And the Suns did not look back from that point. And Chris Paul continued to pour it on in the fourth quarter, along with Devin Booker and along with Torrey Craig having a phenomenal game. If you watch my last video on this series, I said Torrey Craig needs to get more minutes because he was great in that fourth quarter guarding Paul George. And he was doing great today against Paul George, along with hitting some shots, hitting some big shots. Not being afraid to rebound. He played phenomenal on both ends of the floor. We got to give a lot of credit to him for stepping in for the injured Cam Johnson. Also, DeAndre Ayton played poor as he could play the last game. He played a very bad game. Some of that's on him. Some of that was also on the Phoenix guards, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, not getting him the ball in the right positions as they've been doing all postseason long. But this game, DeAndre Ayton started off very aggressive. He was controlling both ends of the floor in the paint. He played a very good game, just like he's been playing most of this postseason. He got back to that brand of basketball. That was a big catalyst for why the Suns were able to win this game. Devin Booker finally looked like D-Book. I mean, we haven't really seen that since game 1, but he looked like Devin Booker tonight, and that's why you can book it. The Phoenix Suns going to the finals. Along with that, if you get 5, I think Jay Crowder hit, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I'm not looking at the stats. I think he hit 5 threes in this game. Jay Crowder shot terrible this entire postseason run. Maybe outside of the Denver series, which everybody played good. But if you get 5 threes out of Jay Crowder, this Suns team is tough to beat. If you get 5 threes out of Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, don't know what his final numbers look like, but this is the best eye test game that I've seen him play in this series. He was active on both ends of the floor. He wasn't being sometimes he has a tendency to play nonchalant on offense, and he doesn't take the shots that come to him. But he played very good on the offensive side today. He had an and one, had a finishing transition, had some offensive rebound opportunities. He played a very good game. And Campaign was good in the first quarter, and then he was bad for stretches, but it didn't matter because then Chris Paul came back in, and Chris Paul turned it up. And now the Phoenix Suns are in the NBA Finals. Congrats to them, because this is a team, a franchise that has not made the playoffs in over a decade, since the 2010 season. They've been through the bottom of the barrel of the NBA. They've been one of the bottom tier teams. They've gone through several lottery picks that did not pan out. We don't need to go down the long list of that. They've been through several head coaches. Shout out to Monty Williams. I don't know how I haven't given him his respect yet. One of the most beloved guys in the NBA, one of the best coaches in the league. He deserves a lot of credit for this, just as much as Chris Paul does, and Devin Booker and the rest of the Phoenix Suns organization and team. Shout out to James Jones for being the catalyst, being the guy that orchestrated this team, not being afraid to take a chance on Chris Paul, not being afraid to take a chance on Campaign or Cam Johnson, putting the pieces around these guys. And all of that's come together, and the Phoenix Suns are in the NBA Finals. Now, of course, as Kobe Bryant would say, the job's not finished. The job is not finished. And they were saying after they got the Western Conference Finals trophy, this isn't the end goal. We got a lot more to accomplish, which they definitely do, and they have to see who they will play coming out of the next series, which I'm also sorry I have not really talked about that Bucks series, the Bucks and Hawks. I haven't watched as much of it as I probably should, but I don't really have too much to say. I mean, Giannis is down, Trae Young is down. It's a 2-2 series. That series is kind of wild, but back to this one, got to give all the praise, love for the Phoenix Suns. This was an important game to close out because a lot of people were probably thinking, okay, we're probably going to go to a Game 7 because the Clippers play so well at home. Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, Patrick Beverley, Marcus Morris, these guys play so well at home. Paul George is coming off the best game of his postseason career. And I think this was very similar to when the Suns went into L.A. against the Lakers and closed it out in 6. I mean, that game felt like a Game 7. I think tonight the Suns looked at it in the same way. So shout out to them for having that killer mentality and being able to close this series out, and now they're on the way to the NBA Finals. And now let's talk about the LA Clippers. Look, I think the Clippers should be very not happy because, of course, you want to win it all, of course, but they should not be down on themselves about how this series or this season turned out, because I think everybody from the beginning of the season did not believe in this team at all. They're frauds. They blew a 3-1 lead in the bubble. Kawhi is not that guy. Paul George is pandemic playoff P, blah, blah, blah. I think everybody was against this Clipper team from the beginning, and I was constantly saying all season long, I think it's good that they're flying under the radar. I like the moves that they made. Even though, like, Serge Ibaka was out for the postseason with the back injury, Rondo really didn't play much in this series, but I feel like Rondo's the type of vet, like, his impact is still felt even if he's not on the court. That's my personal opinion. And, people were probably, saying Ty Lue's not really a good coach. He had LeBron James. That makes up for a lot. You got to give nothing but praise, give the flowers to the Clippers for even being in this position to force a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals with no Kawhi Leonard, one of the best players in the league. They had no Kawhi Leonard, and they had a fighting chance to force a Game 7. I think they really had the Suns on the ropes, honestly, and that's why the Suns came out with so much urgency to win this game. And you got to give the Clippers a lot of credit for continuing to face adversity and being able to overcome it. Being down 0-2 3 straight series, coming back in 2 of those series to win. Being able to beat the Mavs when Luka is playing out of his mind. Being able to beat the Utah Jazz with no Kawhi Leonard in the final 2 games. And being able to fight back in this series when, I think going into Game 5 down 3-1, they were kind of expected to lose. Zubac is out. You're already down Kawhi Leonard. I think they were expected to lose that game, and they were able to win that game pretty handily and force a Game 6. And they gave themselves another shot of surviving. And you just got to give a lot of credit to these guys, man. You got to give the credit to Reggie Jackson for playing lights out in the postseason. Nobody hit more 3-point shots than Reggie Jackson. He made a lot of money for himself if he decides to leave the Clippers, which I think he should stay because the role he has with this team, especially when Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he can't ask for that anywhere else. Like, he could go to somewhere like a Chicago or, somewhere, get paid a lot of money, probably like, $15 to $20 million a year, but he won't. No, I'm not saying he won't, but it'll be difficult for him to find this same role that he's had with the Clippers in this postseason and this season in general with another team. I think this is a perfect situation for him. Shout out to Reggie for playing lights out. The best basketball I've seen him play in his NBA career. Got to give a shout out to Paul George. I got to give a shout out to Paul George. He's been elite all postseason long. Tonight, like, from me watching, it looked like he was out of juice. It looked like he was completely out of gas. Nobody's played even close to the amount of minutes Paul George has played in this postseason. I think the next closest guy is Trae Young, and he's like almost 200 minutes behind him. Paul George has played 40-plus minutes per game all postseason long, and it's been ramped up with Kawhi Leonard being out. And I think he just ran out of gas tonight. He just looked like he didn't have the energy to really be super effective on both sides of the ball. And I'm not saying that as an excuse, but, you know, sometimes it's just like that, man, when you're putting your heart out. Like, he put his heart out in Game 5. He put his all into Game 5. He had a superstar performance in Game 5. And, you know, one day's rest, that takes a lot out of a player. You know, that takes a lot out of a player. And, you know, I'm not holding this game against him because Paul George has been elite when the Clippers needed him to be elite the most, man, with their backs against the wall. Game 5 in this series, Game 5 against the Utah Jazz. He had big games in the Dallas series. He's had big games all postseason long. And tonight just wasn't one of those nights for him, man. But I got to give credit where it's due. I don't want to see any Paul George slander. If you do that, you're weird. Stop that immediately because Paul George left his heart out on the court. And he showed that he is still a superstar caliber player in this postseason. And who knows what could have been if Kawhi Leonard was healthy. That's really the what if of this postseason. Star players being hurt, but Paul George didn't complain one bit. The old Paul George, he might have packed it up, been like, you know what, we're down Kawhi Leonard. He might have packed it up in the Utah series, like they're the better overall team, they should beat us. But no, he stepped up to the plate. Got to give credit to guys like Terrence Mann for, you know, really getting extended minutes in this postseason, stepping up to the plate, having big games, having a 39-point game in the Utah series, playing big-time roles, playing the center position at times in this series. You got to give a lot of credit to the I think, second-year player in Terrence Mann. He's been amazing for this Clipper team. Got to give credit to guys like Patrick Beverley, even though he did some bogus stuff with Chris Paul at the end of the game. But we're not going to speak too much on that. But I got to give his credit because he played amazing defense on Devin Booker in this series. And early on in the playoffs, I was talking, and everybody knew he cannot be on the court against the Dallas Mavericks because he was getting picked on. But he didn't complain. He was still as supportive as a teammate could be, and he was still cheering on his team, being a great teammate, and transition that from, you know, playing more in the Jazz series and now playing, you know, starter minutes, you know, starting. I think he was back starting in this series against the Suns. You got to give a lot of credit to him for being resilient, and that is the story of this Clipper team, staying resilient. Tyronn Lue, got to give him his credit. I was giving him some hell early on in the postseason, but he knows how to make adjustments, which I love coaches that know how to make adjustments. He's not afraid to adjust mid-game. He's not afraid to make a big adjustment, to make a big lineup change. Ty Lue has proven that he's a very good coach in this NBA. He's a very good coach in the league. Give him his respect. It's not just because he had LeBron, Kyrie Irving, and company. He's a good coach, too. You got to give him his respect. Guys like Marcus Morris playing through knee injuries and stuff like that. And I could go down the list. Boogie Cousins had some very good moments. The Clippers, man, they deserve all the praise because a lot of y'all counted them out before, you know, the season was even starting. And a lot of y'all counted them out when they was down 0-2. Me included. I thought, you know, they might be done when they was down 0-2 against the Mavs, but they were able to fight back. They fought back again in the Jazz series, and they showed all the fight. They showed championship DNA all postseason long. Got to give a lot of respect to them. And I know people are probably going to continue to look at this season, whoever wins the championship, like similar to, I think, the bubble, an asterisk type year. Because there's so many injuries going on. There's so many injuries. LeBron's ankle, AD's groin, Kawhi's knee, Trae Young now. I mean, there's so many injuries have been going on. And I know I'm forgetting some guys. Chris Paul was hurt. Jamal Murray was hurt. There's a long list of players, all-star caliber players that have been injured, miss the playoffs or miss time in the postseason. Here's what I'm going to say about that, and this is in regards to the Phoenix Suns making the NBA Finals. While everybody else is dealing with injuries, give credit, and of course the Brooklyn Nets, they deal with a bunch of injuries too. Anyways, give credit to the Suns for being able to stay healthy. Give credit to the Suns for being able to stay healthy. I think that's an underrated trait to have, being able to stay healthy. You got to be available. And for the most part, other than Chris Paul's shoulder, which he still played through, and other than him missing time due to the virus, the Suns have had the best ability, and that's availability. So I think instead of trying to diminish their finals run because of other teams dealing with injuries, give them the credit for being able to stay healthy. Give them that credit. I remember they said Phoenix was like the fountain of youth, because I remember Grant Hill went there. Grant Hill's dealt with 1,000 injuries in his NBA career, and he went there and he had the healthiest stretch of his NBA career. I think Shaq said, like, yeah, they got some stuff in Phoenix that just keeps you healthy. And, you know, just give them the credit for being able to have all their guys available. Cam Johnson was out tonight, but you got to give them the credit for being able to be resilient in this long season. They were in the bubble too. They played every game in the bubble like it was their last, because every game pretty much was their last. And I think that bubble run built the foundation for these young players. Adding Chris Paul, adding Jay Crowder. These are guys that are winning players, guys that have championship DNA. And adding those guys who are already a young core that is hungry. Devin Booker's never made the playoffs. DeAndre Ayton is, you know, pretty much looked at as not a good number one pick because of who was picked behind him. You know, Mikal Bridges is a very competitive young player who wants to show that he has some game. Cam Johnson was being doubted the moment he got drafted. He was the oldest player in the draft. Why are y'all taking him at 11? Y'all could have probably got him late in the first round or something. And so many, Cam Payne was deemed as one of the worst players in the league. So many storylines for this Suns team, so many players that have chips on their shoulders, and now they have an opportunity to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy, bring it back to Phoenix. And personally, I'm rooting for him. As a Chris Paul fan, as a person that's really been highly invested in the Suns team all year long, I'm rooting for him. And it's just crazy how I don't think anybody before the season started was looking at this Suns team like that's a championship team. Because I know I wasn't. And I'm as big as a Chris Paul fan as you might find. I was looking at them like, for sure, a playoff team. They're going to be very competitive. They'll give some people a good series or two. But, nah, I don't think. Championship team, no. I didn't think that before the season. And as the season went on, I'm thinking, like, they could make a run. But I picked against them in the first round. I can't lie. I picked against them in the first round. And, you know, of course, like, injuries did happen. But you still got to play the game. You still got to play the game. And they played the game, and now the Phoenix Suns, four games away from being NBA champions, man. Look, I'm happy for those guys. Once again, the Clippers should not be ashamed of their season at all. They showed that they have championship DNA, and if Kawhi Leonard comes back, that's a team, that's a force to be reckoned with, man. If they bring their guys back, that is a force to be reckoned with in the Western Conference. Got to give a lot of love and respect to those guys. But yeah, the Phoenix Suns, man, I'm so happy for Chris Paul, bro. Like, I can't, just watching him, like, seeing how happy he was making his first NBA Finals. It just made, as a fan, it just made me happy. And I think all basketball fans should be happy for Chris Paul. Like, I don't see how you could really not like Chris Paul, you know, for real. But I don't know, some people. And real quick, this has been bothering me. For the people that have been getting on Kawhi Leonard for not sitting on the bench or traveling with the team, shut up. Please shut up. Like, okay, he was on the bench tonight. Are y'all happy now? Like, him being on the bench or in the suite or not traveling with the team has nothing to do with the Clippers' success. It has nothing to do with it. Like, please stop being weird. Please stop being weird, bro. It's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand with that stuff. But anyways, that was a quick 30-second rant. This is about to be like a 20-minute video. So if you got to this point, you are a real one for sure. And shout out to the Suns, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and company, man. NBA Finals. We out.